And this seamlessly brings us to Campaign Beat with Charles Pellegrin. And we say hello to Charles. Hello, Charles.
Hi, François.
And this is the only topic people have been talking about really since yesterday in France.
Yeah, well, it's a pivotal moment in every French presidential election, and both candidates spent the day today preparing for this moment. They'll be squaring off in a studio in the northern suburbs of Paris. As many as 20 million viewers are expected to be watching, and every last detail has been scrupulously argued over and debated between the various parties involved. Both sides agreed, for instance, on the temperature inside the studio, and it should be around 19 degrees Celsius. I guess you don't want to be too sweaty or too cold. Another thing they agreed on was that for the first time since 1981, cutaway shots will be authorized. That means we'll be able to see the reaction of the candidate who isn't speaking with the help of the 14 cameras on set. About 20 different themes will be talked about, and the journalists have not communicated their questions to Le Pen and Macron in advance. However, they will not be doing any fact-checking of what's being said, instead focusing more on both candidates having equal speaking time as required by French law.
All right, and do we have an idea as to whether or not that debate, because we've had, actually this year we've had 7 previous ones, we counted them. Do we have any idea whether this debate will actually sway voters?
Well, that question arises every French presidential election. There's actually no hard statistical data on this, but many have argued that these debates are turning points in the campaign. What's for sure is that people will be watching avidly with a lot of expectations whether or not they back a particular candidate. Emerald Maxwell has more on what the viewers will be paying attention to.
Just 4 days to go until the election runoff. And these Parisians all have the same plans tonight, to watch the presidential debate.
Of course, it's very important, because we're going to have to make a choice.
I want to see which one puts forward the most sensible ideas.
It's theatre, it's a show, and it's politics all at the same time.
Marine Le Pen and Emmanuel Macron will go head-to-head at 9 p.m. for 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's one of their last chances to get their views across on the issues that matter most to voters.
The subjects which most concern me as a mother are education, schools, and as a doctor, I don't think they've talked enough about health during the campaign.
The economy and, you know, just everyday life. What's going to happen next?
Tonight will be the first time the 2 final candidates will spar face-to-face. Some 20 million people are expected to tune in. But will it have any real effect on viewers' votes?
We'll see what they stand up for, but personally, my mind is already made up.
But with an estimated 18% of voters still undecided, and Macron's hefty lead narrowing in the polls, there's still much to play for.
Yeah, and it's all about getting, Charles, that zinger in, that memorable one-liner that will make the headlines the next day on radio and TV.
It's kind of like a rap battle. The winner is the one with the best punchline. Since 1974 and the election of Giscard d'Estaing, there's always been a one-on-one debate between the 2 second-round candidates that was televised, except in 2002 when Jacques Chirac refused to debate with Jean-Marie Le Pen of the Front National. And almost every time, there's one particular line that stands out. Simon Harding takes a look back at some of the most memorable moments of past presidential debates.
A verbal offensive, an appeal to emotion, an anaphora, a debate which can in a few seconds change the course of a campaign. In 1974, there was the first French presidential debate in history.
The set was dark, the atmosphere cold. Both candidates were tense and not even talking to each other.
That night, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing swept François Mitterrand's campaign aside with a few killer words.
I find it always shocking and injuring to manipulate the monopoly of someone's heart. You don't have that monopoly, Mr. Mitterrand. You don't have it.
7 years later, the duel was repeated, but this time, François Mitterrand had prepared himself by practicing fake debates with his advisors, and that time, it was him who came out on top. The left ascended to power, but they were haunted by a split, and a coalition in the government which foreshadowed a bitter and tense debate.
Allow me to say that tonight I'm not the Prime Minister. And you're not the President of France.
You are absolutely right, Mr. Prime Minister.
A line which helped Mitterrand win the day, the press unanimously agreeing that Chirac had been cast aside. In 2002, everyone expected Jospin to face Chirac, but a huge shock rocked France as far-right candidate Jean-Marie Le Pen moved to the second round. Chirac refused to debate with the National Front leader.
I have refused them in the past, and I will not accept to debate with them tomorrow.
10 years later, Nicolas Sarkozy faced François Hollande and his famous as president.
As President of the Republic, I would not call my Prime Minister an employee. As President, I would enable the justice system to work independently. As President, I would always ensure that my behavior is exemplary.
On Wednesday night, the 7th debate of the second round will take place, a brand new duel, which will certainly make its own history.
All right, Macron, strong favorite going into this debate. Le Pen trying to build a bit of a coalition, most notably by naming a potential prime minister in one of the eliminated candidates, the sovereignist Nicolas Dupont-Aignan. How's that going down?
Not great. He's been heavily criticized. The leader of the right-wing so-called Stand Up France movement, Debout la France, joined forces with Marine Le Pen last weekend. He scored just under 5% in the first round. But many people in Hyères, the town where he's been mayor for many years, feel betrayed by the sudden about-turn and endorsement of Marine Le Pen. Dupont-Aignan supports some policies shared by the National Front, especially with regards to national sovereignty, but was extremely critical of the far right throughout the campaign. He's the first mainstream politician to actively endorse the Front National. She offered him the prime minister position if she were to win, while France 24's James Creedon went to meet one of the local officials who's led the charge against Dupont-Aignan, seeking his resignation as mayor of Hyères.
For the first time, there's an alliance with the mainstream. Until now, the National Front was isolated. And today, the National Front can boast that there is this alliance. And naturally, some of Nicolas Dupont-Aignan's supporters, and even others, might think that he sent a signal and authorized them to cross a line that they had never dared to cross before. That's why it's serious.
All right, and just to finish, this is a chance, of course, the debate, to get to know both candidates. One guy thinks he knows them better than most.
Yeah, a French genealogist by the name of Jean-Louis Bocarno. He decided to dig into the family histories of both candidates, of Marine Le Pen and Emmanuel Macron. And he found out that on Marine Le Pen's father's side, they're all from Brittany. That's something we knew. But on his mother's side, it's actually quite more interesting. There's a lot of variety there because they were merchants, and he's finding descendants of Henry II, King of England, but also of old Spanish kings, and through that to caliphs of Andalusia. And if you even go as far as 50 generations, he's finding links to Prophet Muhammad. That as an ancestor to Marine Le Pen. As for Emmanuel Macron, meanwhile, he found links to the founder of the Capetian dynasty, one of the early dynasty of French kings, famous for Charlemagne.
I don't know about this story. I'm a little skeptical. One who's a descendant of a king, the other of the Prophet Muhammad.
It's always kings and emperors, you know. It's never just the miller just down the street.
I prefer Barack Obama's Alsatian roots. Many thanks, Charles Pellegrin. That's it for Campaign Beat. Stay with us. More to come.